There we go. Can you hear me? Let me just check the live stream chat over here. My computer's over here. All right, everything looks good. I guess we can start. In today's story, anti-clerical government officials demand to hold a reception in Don Bosco's Oratory school grounds. He agrees, but when these high-level politicians show up, they try to prove, through a series of leading questions, that he was conspiring against the state in league with the Vatican. Let's hear how Don Bosco turned this awkward conversation into an edifying experience for everyone. You're watching The Miracles and Prophecies of St. John Bosco, a project of America Needs Fatima. I'm your host, Matthew Miller. Thanks for showing up to the live stream. Don't forget we have new episodes about St. John Bosco every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so you might subscribe for that. Did you know that Don Bosco had multiple oratories other than his main school in Turin? There was one in Lanzo that had a great deal of attention in 1876. A corporation had been formed to build a railroad from Chieri to Lanzo. A huge political rally was planned to inaugurate the completion of the final section of the track from Turin to Lanzo, after 10 years of construction. Parliament had recently undergone a shift from right to left, and the new men in power, while posing as ardent supporters of progress and freedom, were actually determined to use their might to promote not only democratic ideals, but clear-cut anti-clerical policies. The inauguration of the railroad seemed like a perfect opportunity for the enthronement of the new political order in the heart of traditional Piedmont. Don Bosco's name somehow got mixed up with the event, but he prudently managed to navigate the situation. At the end of July, the mayors of Turin and Lanzo called upon Father Lemoyne's school to find out if he would host government officials and guests at a cocktail party, which they wished to hold in the spacious porticos of the oratory. Mayor Felix Regnon of Turin stressed that the Salesian school was the only place that could suitably host such illustrious guests. Father Lemoyne gave the mayors a tour of the grounds, but he informed them that he would have to consult Don Bosco. The saint said that it would be all right, and that he would come to Lanzo for the event. It was the diplomatic thing to do, of course, for the saint often talked about the respect a Christian owes to lawfully established civil authorities. With the monastic suppression laws and other anti-clerical activities still fresh in everybody's mind, any contact between clergymen and government officials could easily have drawn criticism or malignant interpretations. Don Bosco had arrived at Lanzo the day before the official opening with the oratory brass band. The school was festooned with crusader flags flying from every pillar. In the center of the portico, a portrait of King Victor Emmanuel II stood on a stand between the national colors, and beneath it, a graceful column supported a large floral coat of arms of the municipality. At 8:30, the train pulled in with 400 guests, headed by Italy's premier, Augustin de Pretis. They triumphantly descended from the train and made their way through town. Don Bosco and Father Lemoyne were waiting for them at the entrance of the Lanzo Oratory. Turning to Don Bosco, Minister Zanardelli asked, "Excuse me, Father, is Don Bosco here?" "I am Don Bosco," he replied. After some formal handshakes and mutual greetings, the ministers entered the courtyard, where 4 ranks of uniformed students greeted them by doffing their caps and giving them a rousing cheer. General admiration for the gorgeous decorations was voiced aloud as the town officials walked along. After refreshments, nearly all the guests followed Don Bosco and the ministers into the garden. A battle of wits in the form of a polite conversation ensued. Nicotera began, "Don Bosco, you travel quite a bit?" "Of course. I visit my school several times a year." "Now, do you go to Rome very often?" "Yes, I've been there several times." "We know that you also visit the Vatican." This line of questioning indicates a hint of disdain for his allegiance to the Pope. "Well, certainly," Don Bosco replied. "It's quite the place for priests. Where else should I go?" "They say you are quite close to the Pope." "Well, the Holy Father always receives me very kindly. our relationship is as friendly as His Holiness allows it to become. On the other hand, I also have easy access to government officials. Whenever I had to transact business with cabinet ministers, they would always receive me immediately. Then I would return to the Vatican and promptly be ushered into the Holy Father's presence. That's how some serious problems were settled. I can also say that the Pope has particularly trusted me and, within limits, has given me full freedom of action to negotiate for him. Minister Vigliani has also shown me great trust, allowing me almost full freedom in certain matters, although he knew that I am more papist than the Pope himself. Here Deputy Ferraris interrupted, "True, that's true. I can repeat what Vigliani said to me. You had better value Don Bosco," he said. "He's the one who can perhaps render the state the greatest service." "Well, Don Bosco," Nicotera said, "you're not telling us everything that's on your mind." "Am I not?" "You're too smart." "In what way do you think I'm smart?" "My lips speak what's in my heart. I hide nothing, unless it's something confidential. Even the youngest lad in our schools knows what I want to do. If this is being smart, then indeed I am. As for religious matters, I stand with the Pope, and very proudly so." Nicotero was trying to imply that Don Bosco was conspiring against the state, but the saint disproved his assumption. "And how about modern trends?" Nicotera asked. "I obey established authority," Don Bosco replied. "Still, I have the feeling that you're not telling us everything." "With your pardon, my candid way of speaking should make it clear that I'm not here to flatter or indulge in double talk. I always speak my mind as an upright man should. Everybody knows where I stand." "That's all very well," Senator Hercules Racotti piped up. "But the left-wing cabinet ministers have given Don Bosco 2 bad marks." But before we hear the 2 made-up offenses, I'd just like to say that if you're in need of spiritual help, you can enroll in our Saturday Mass intentions for the promoters of St. John Bosco by clicking on the link in the description of this live stream. These episodes are free of filthy YouTube ads, but I can't keep them coming without your help. So please consider becoming a promoter of St. John Bosco so that I can continue to spread his message around the world. Another benefit is that you could receive these excellent books written by St. John Bosco himself. Let me get them. They're right over here. So, Sacred History. I hope it's focusing. And then Roadmap to Heaven. These are excellent books. I hope it focused all right. So now on with the story. But the left-wing cabinet ministers have given Don Bosco 2 bad marks. Please tell me what they are so that I can see if they are wrongs which can be righted. Well, first, you turn out too many priests. Don Bosco smirked at that. And second, too many teachers. Well, Senator, I can't see any harm in that, though the priests I turn out are not too many, let me remind you. In fact, they're nothing compared to the overwhelming number of people who have gone into state employment, the military, the scholarly professions, the arts and skilled trades. Nor can I see how you can say that a priest does wrong by trying to train others to help him in his ministry. I believe that all of you gentlemen, from first to last, would like to instill your own spirit into as many people as possible, training them to be men like yourselves, dedicated particularly to public service. So it is only natural that a priest should wish to turn out more priests. Doesn't a soldier try to train other good soldiers? A doctor, many skilled doctors? So too with lawyers. You can't blame me, Professor, if I try to instill my spirit into others and train men to be like me, restricting ourselves and our humble career to benefiting our fellow men. You would yourselves have to fault me if I were unconcerned in this matter. Were I to neglect training priests, people would say that I have no love for my profession. Yes, Don Bosco is right, the ministers agreed, becoming ever more entranced by his directness, and mostly by his tone of utter sincerity. As for your second charge of turning out too many teachers, who forces me to do this? You do, Senator. because you put me against the wall by sustaining laws of certification in Parliament. I'm only trying to comply with a law that has been forced upon me. To keep our schools open, we must have certified teachers with academic degrees. If you think that doing one's best to comply with a state law is wrong, then I'm proudly in the wrong. I'm sure that everyone agrees with me on this point. With us, it is an absolute necessity. We would be in trouble if our schools didn't have certified teachers. These gentlemen, and he smilingly indicated the ministers, would have it in for me. Well, Don Bosco has hushed us, they agreed. Don Bosco is right. The conversation then took a more humorous twist. Tell us, Don Bosco, since you can read men's hearts, Senator Roccotti began, who is the worse sinner, Nicotera or Zenardelli? What can I say? Don Bosco responded. Let me add here, me personally, that there's no doubt that Don Bosco could read people's souls, as we've heard thousands of times on this channel. However, he wasn't going to do it at the behest of joking fools, like an after-dinner conjuring trick. No, Don Bosco merely said, I respect you both. You, Mr. Zanardelli, are a competent lawyer, well known throughout Italy, while Mr. Nicotera is famous for his works on statistics, which I highly regard. Don't dodge the issue, Don Bosco, Roccotti insisted. Answer my question. Who is the worst sinner? But Nicotera, turning to Roccotti, exclaimed, Why pick on me? Keep me out of it. Ask Don Bosco instead if you are not the biggest sinner of the lot. But I have no intention of being converted, Roccotti replied. Then you're a bigger sinner than I, Nicotera replied, because you know what's wrong and do it anyway. Don't you know what the Bible says? Desiderium peccatorum perebit? The desire of the wicked shall perish. Well, what else can I say? Broke in Don Bosco. You're all taking the words right out of my mouth. Don Bosco's kind and simple manner had no trace of bitterness or personal offense, so much so that they remained grouped about him, speaking lightly, with no hint of disdain in word or manner. He had completely won them over. The organizing committee had timed the minister's stay at the Salesian school for 20 minutes, but they stayed for an hour and a half. Nicotero was quite vocal as he left, and everyone heard him exclaim, I have been more than pleased. One experiences such contentment only once in a lifetime. Zanardelli said as he was leaving, I will do all I can for your school. Later, Don Bosco told his clerics and priests, I don't believe that those ministers and deputies ever heard as many sermons as they did today at Lanzo. In one way, they are impoverished men who never hear a word spoken from the heart or a truth not expressed in harshness. I accepted them sincerely, and wearing my heart on my sleeve, I told them what the occasion prompted. Those truths, which I could tell them without offense, I uttered fully and honestly. Maybe they have never made a spiritual retreat, but I feel that today they got one without having to go to the St. Ignatius retreat house. I thought I did well to come to Lanzo. The poor director, Father Lemoyne, would have found himself in a pretty predicament. How would he have replied to the tricky and spiteful and provoking questions they would have thrown at him? For one unused to these things, it's not easy to show a wholesome prudence toward people who are in the habit of looking down upon priests as of no account. That's why I came, since this reception was unavoidable and no one could handle the situation. How could anyone refuse hospitality to these ministers when they requested it themselves? What an uproar a refusal on our part would have caused. We might have had to close down the school, and we had no reason to refuse them. We're in Piedmont, the cradle of the House of Savoy. Duke Amadeus was expected to attend, and Zanardelli came to represent the king. Since we had to welcome him, we had to do it in the most fitting way. There's a saying in the gospel, give unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. We did so. We have done nothing more than render homage to the constituted authority. Some other advantage, I hope, has come to us. I don't think that any of these men will again be major enemies of the clergy. I treated them with sincerity, and so they will readily think that other priests, too, seek only their good. I believe that at the moment of death, they will all want to have a priest at their side. Thank you all so much for joining us during this live stream. God bless you, and Our Lady keep you.